Let's look at some of our options with our data. So let's go ahead and click on View Responses. And again, we see all the responses from those who have filled out our form. You'll notice here on this particular form, I had last name here, a couple questions, and then way over here I have your class period. I actually would like to have your class period next to last name. So I'm going to come back to my Google form, and I'm going to left click on your class period, and I'm going to drag it up behind last name. Now naturally we would think when we go back to view our responses that we would actually see your class period move over next to last name. And it doesn't do that, so you need to consider that whenever you're creating your forms. Remember, you might want to make sure you kind of have an idea, at least on your first couple questions, if you want that data to be right next to each other in your spreadsheet, make sure that you put those in order. Because although you can move your questions around, it does not change how they appear in the spreadsheet. They come into the spreadsheet in the exact order that you put them in originally. Another thing you'll notice with this original spreadsheet, you can't really do that much to rearrange and manipulate this data. Like if I try to move this column over here, you'll notice I get a pop-up message saying performing this operation may cause features associated with this table to stop working. So I like to sometimes be able to manipulate and move my data around. So an option for that is you can come to Form Responses, left click, and then choose Duplicate. This will actually duplicate and make a new sheet of the exact copy of the form responses that are currently already filled out. So you come back to this copy of form responses, left click, you can choose Rename. I'll just name this 1 for now, so you can see that it actually has a new name. Now you could take this data, move it to new locations, you can actually sort your data, do all the different things you want to do with it. A little tip of something you might want to do when you come back to form responses, because notice if somebody new were to fill out this form, it's not going to put their data over here onto this sheet for me. So what I sometimes will do, I'll highlight this one, just select that, come up to your paint bucket, and then just maybe choose a color up here that's bright. That way I know this was the last person that I had looked at the data to see who had filled it out. So when I see new people come below, I know I can just copy that data, bring it over to this tab, paste it in, and start to manipulate it as well. So that's just a little option and a little tip to show you how to manipulate the data that you got in your form. Something else I want to show you real quick is you'll notice this says Smith here. Let's go back really quick and let's look at our option to look at the summary of responses. You'll see the names across the top, Smith, Christensen, Schmutz, showing us the different data that has been collected with this form. I want to come in here and I want to say, let's say that we know that this actually is supposed to say Smith Becker. And so we fix that on our form. You'll notice if we come back to our form and we go to the summary of responses, let's refresh this screen, the data still stays Smith. So that's something to consider. If you are looking at your form and you're wanting to change anything in here that you know might be a mistake, it will not change this data. This data on this sheet is a summary of the original responses that were submitted. So that's just another tip to remember when you're working with Google Forms.